You have continuity or association plan for your business?
Has anyone shared the concept of sustainability with you?
What about the need to protect the rights of minority shareholders?
What are those ingredients germane to having effective meetings?
For these and many more, tune into Corporate Governance Platform every Thursday on MITV, your darling station, on DSTV 255 and UHF 43 at 4:30 p.m.
Corporate Governance Platform is your best medium for informative and educative strategies for the practice of the corporate governance profession.
Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, the hub of governance professionals.
Many thanks for joining us on Corporate Governance Platform, proudly brought to you by the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, and coming to you live from MITV in Lagos. I am Tunde Odeyemi. Our conversation this evening is going to be on the role of ethics in business and, of course, its influence on corporate brand. And my guest is here in the studio. He will be leading the conversation on the role of ethics in business. He's a distinguished fellow of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, Mr. Olufemi ADABALE. Mr. Olufemi ADABALE is an international finance corporate governance trainer, a creative, energetic, and highly motivated individual with expertise in marketing, community relations, publicity, corporate governance, and private professional lecturing. He has ample experience in diverse organizations, which include American International Insurance Company, Notori Chemical Industries Limited, and Council Committee of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN. Olufemi holds a diploma in Administrative Management and BSc Political Science from the University of Ilorin, and a postgraduate degree in Community Relations from the School of Media and Communication of the Pan-African University, Lagos. He is currently the managing consultant of FM ADABALE Consulting Limited, a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, and an associate member of the Nigerian Institute of Management, Chartered. Mr. ADABALE, you are welcome to Corporate Governance Platform.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, and thank you for giving your time to come and share your thoughts on the role of business ethics.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like to start this conversation by, let's go straight to knowing what ethics is actually all about. What is ethics?
Well, ethics basically relates to different aspects of life.
Okay.
Personal, business, society. So it's a moral principle, okay, that define the behavioral patterns of either a company or individuals. But more importantly, ethics has to do with applying, moral values into business scenarios. And the moral value on its own, of course, has to do with general discussions about what is right or wrong.
Okay. Moral values that relates to what is right or wrong.
Exactly.
Okay. How then is ethical culture related to corporate governance?
Okay, well, corporate governance could be seen as the mother of all. Okay, which talks about the ways and manners in which a company is expected to be run and directed, of course, to its own objectives. So the way on its own talks about the method, the principles, the policies that the company comes up with. Okay, so the method, the principles, of course, are now linked to ethics on its own. Could it be seen as a right manner or way of running the business, or could it also be seen as the wrong way of running the business? So that's how the two could be linked together.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to invite our viewers to be part of the program by asking questions or sending comments to to 08023231287. Please, you cannot call on this program, you can only send text message. Send text message to ask any question on ethics in business to 08023231287. I take that number for the final time, 08023231287. I know you have it on the screen of your television set. Okay, you have made us to understand the relationship between ethics and corporate governance. Now, I want to take it further by asking, how does ethical culture impact on corporate governance?
Okay, well, the way ethics impact on corporate governance, or perhaps maybe some other brands of the brand of the company, will be such that it could be such that the ways in which a company is run will be perceived by the general public. So if it is in the right way, the general public has a way of saying, oh, this company is actually doing the best, trying their best to ensure that they are good corporate neighbors and the likes. But then if it is on the other way, on the other hand, which has to do with the wrong way, then of course there is a public judgment or opinion about that. You could also liken it to example of, let's say for instance, I have maybe two examples very quickly. The first will be that of Nike. Okay, when Nike was running part of its production in the Asia part of Nigeria, of the world, okay, most of the partners of Nike at the time were using child labors, in the Asian part of the world. But what happens in America? There were boycotts, to the running shoes that Nike was producing, which are their brands. Okay, so it impacts negatively on their, on their production, on their profitability at the end of the day. So, of course, the second example, very quickly, will be that of what China is saying at the moment, that they want to start producing their, having their productions or their facilities without using coal anymore. Okay. Because we're beginning to see a situation where the use of coal is impacting negatively on the ozone layers. And at the end of the day, climate change is the order of the day, the discussions all over the world at the moment.
Okay, I want us to look at the relationship between these three concepts. Because while you were talking, you mentioned perception. Exactly. Now look at what's the relationship between ethics, the reputation of the company, and investors' confidence.
Okay, now in combining the three,
okay,
now ethics has a link towards corporate reputation, and at the same time it talks about the confidence on the investors. Now the investors here that have huge contribution towards ethical values of a company are usually the institutional investors. We're talking about the pension managers, the insurance company, the financial institution as a whole, or the pension manager that hold huge funds in trust of their clients. Okay. So now most of the time, being a giant or a huge corporate investor, they have a way of forcing companies to do the right thing. So investors want a situation where they are confident about about the company in which they are investing in. They could be able to say they are proud of the company they are investing in. In fact, when you also link it, you can also link it to what happened during the Aaron saga, the WorldCom at the time when Arthur Anderson was the auditor in America. What happens at the moment, at that point in time, was a situation where, there was shredding of emails, distorting of, of documents that could have been used as an evidence to investigate what was going on as far as the scandal was concerned. So at that point, investors' confidence were lost. The reputation of companies were lost. And that was one of the major reasons that made the U.S. chairman of Security and Exchange Commission at the time, that was in 2001, if I'm not mistaken, was such that he began to address the public and says, even the general market, that if the market or the country, the investors are not having confidence, in the market, in the country, then capital will flow elsewhere. And that is exactly what is happening all over the world at this point in time. In fact, specifically he said, if investors' confidence is lost, then capital will flow elsewhere. So all the corporate investors, individual investors, they will never want to invest in the market. They will never want to have anything to do with the company. They will rather take their own profits, their own investment to companies that have good reputation.
In a way, it's like the investors are compelling the organizations to be ethical compliant.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So that is what, especially the institutional investors. In fact, in the past, it has always been that you have this sustainable investment approach.
Okay.
This company will never invest in company. They were, like in the past, companies that are investing, that are producing weapons of mass destruction, some of these institutional investors will never, put their funds in
such organizations.
Exactly.
Okay. Now let me take you to a provision of the National Code of Corporate Governance 2018 that has to do with ethics. The code says that directors should not make improper or prejudicial use of information acquired as directors and not disclose non-public information except where disclosure is legally mandated. What is the significance of this particular provision?
Well, the provision in a way team more to insider trading, where the directors who are previous to having, corporate information at their disposal, and yet this information are not yet published, are not yet readily available to the investing public. So what are they doing? They are using such information for their own personal gain or family gain or business partner gains. So what the code is doing is that it's frowning against that. It doesn't want to have anything to where directors are having insider dealings or insider trading to their own advantage. And you and I know that what drives the share prices of companies all over the world are the information. So when the information is positive, what happens to the share price? Goes up. When it is negative, it drops. So at that point in time, the first point of call, those that are previous to such information are the directors. So once such information have not yet been released or published to the public, then they are not supposed to use that advantage, except in a situation where it is legally mandated that they have to do that.
So they should not disclose
such
information
except it has been published.
Okay. Now let's look at this. Honesty, integrity, fairness, and loyalty. These four are some of the desired principles of ethics, right? Now, can you explain how each of them is related to corporate governance?
Okay, if I could recall properly, I believe you talk about honesty first.
Honesty, yes.
So honesty, part of the tenet of corporate governance is openness. So honesty in a way relates to openness. So when companies are supposed to disclose their activities for the year, reporting it to the shareholders, they're supposed to be honest with the true face or true value of what the company's financial health or financial status is at that moment. So that has to do with honesty and openness. Then of course, I think I'm reading about loyalty, Abi?
I mentioned integrity, fairness, and loyalty.
So of course, integrity has to do with making sure that the company on its own is perceived to be doing the right thing at the same time. Okay, and of course, the aspect of there's an aspect that talks about equity as well. Okay, so companies are expected to ensure that the shareholders are treated equally. Okay, in such a way that the distribution of notice and then other documents that support it, gets to the shareholders at the same time. The same thing happens to the company secretary. When the company secretary has been ordered by the board to call for a meeting, okay, board packs and every other, the notice and all other documents that support it, expected to get to the directors at the same time. When that is done, then we know that there's all form of honesty, fairness, equity, playing in this.
Okay, it's like there cannot be sound corporate governance principles without sound ethical values. I think that is what you are trying to say.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Corporate governance, ethics, they go along.
Yeah, they goes hand in hand.
Okay.
Yes, corporate governance, ethics, they go hand in hand. Yeah.
Okay, now let's look at social responsibility. What's the relationship between ethics and corporate social responsibility?
Okay, well, ethics, just like I said earlier on, is the study of individual, business, societal behavioral patterns. Okay, what is expected of an individual or a company or a society supposed to do. Now, social responsibility, okay, is now talking about how can all of these ethical concern be practicalized. So is the practical application of these ethical values that we're talking about. You know, when you say, okay, ethic is saying this is wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, now, social responsibility is now for the company to practically ensure that every of their business activities is not going towards the wrong side.
Okay.
So it's the practical application of ethical consign or values.
That is social responsibility.
Exactly.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful, fantastic. Hey, somebody sent a message. Mr. Pato said, thank you, Mr. Adabale, for the knowledge sharing session. I think this is just to appreciate you from Mr. Pato. Thank you, Mr. Pato. Yeah. Now, still talking about corporate social responsibility. Is it possible for a company to be ethical without practicing corporate social responsibility?
Okay, I'm going to say, in my own opinion,
yes,
I don't see that being practical, or I would say no. Let me just put it that way in a single word. I would say no. I want to see ethic from the angle of love, and I want to see social responsibility, that is CSR, corporate social responsibility, from the angle of giving back to the society. Okay, so now, but I believe that it is possible to be practicing corporate social responsibility without ethical values. So this is how I'm going to put it. So now, if you look at ethic, just like I said earlier on, I liken it to be love. It's not possible for you to love without giving, but it is possible to give without love. So that is why, if you see most of the companies that are practicing corporate social responsibilities, especially in the southern part of Nigeria, the Ogoni, in Port Harcourt, that's where I once worked briefly, at the time. Most of the community folks are seeing those CSR projects as shell projects. They are seeing it as, Chevron projects. Okay, Chevron Hospital, Chevron Road, Chevron Water Project. They are not owning it. They are not seeing it as their own. So to them, they bring all of these CSR projects at their doorstep, at their community, and yet their waterway is distorted. Their sustainable livelihood is fishing. So now, if the company is ethical, then it is, when the company is ethical, it means it's love. It's putting itself, the company is putting itself or herself in the position of the community. So that is why I said earlier on that practicing CSR, it's possible to practice CSR without being ethically, having some ethical values. Exactly.
Okay, how do you now reconcile a situation where profitability is at variance with ethical consideration?
Okay, I would say in that scenario, it is what I will propose to any organization that is in that position is to say, okay, build a PPP model.
What is PPP?
Where you have profit, people, and the planet.
Okay.
So in a situation where, fine, profit at some point is at variance with social, ethical, what do you call it earlier now?
Ethical consideration.
Ethical consideration. So
where profitability is at variance with ethical consideration.
So those ethical considerations will now be the company having people at heart and the planet at heart. So it's more or less like trying as much as possible to bring in those ethical considerations into the business strategy. Okay, and there's no how the company will bring in the people and planet into their business strategy without eventually, being profitable at the end of the day.
Okay, I have another message here from Bola. Bola says, thank you very much, Mr. Guest, for doing justice to ethics. That's the way he put it.
Okay, thank you, Bola.
Thank you, Bola, for your text message. Now, I want to go into this. Is it also good for public sector institutions to have ethical values?
In my own opinion, I would say yes, because the public sector has seemed to be the value drivers, they are expected to set the tone, the leadership tone for the private sectors. So now, in a situation where we find out that the agency, the ministry, government parastatals are trying as much as possible to embrace ethical value, good ethical culture, of course, naturally it will rub on the private sector, because most of the private sector also have dealings or business transactions.
No, we know of the private sector.
Exactly.
We want to talk about the public sector.
Exactly.
What is the benefit to the public sector?
So now the benefit to the public sector is unlimited.
Okay.
More importantly, the public's perception about such ministries, such agency will be high. The public sector are not expected to make profit, but at the end of the day, one of the major benefits to them is that the community will see the public sector as being good, neighbors as well, okay, to them, and then of course they could also go a very high length to also safeguard, some of the projects or some of the facilities of these public sectors, when they believe that they are good neighbors to them. Okay. And we have seen that happens over time. We have seen it happen, over time. I can even give an example very quickly. Let's say public sector, not NEPA. Okay. On my way to the studio, I met 3 people talking about NEPA.
Okay.
And one of them said that if NEPA is charging him 10,000 naira, that he would decide not to. He will decide on his own that when it comes to the usage of the power, okay, he will just use it, But then NEPA came up with prepaid meter.
Okay.
So that way is a human face to the way they deals with the customer. And at the end of the day, what we see today is profitable to NEPA because pay as you use, or as you go, and they're using it. And of course, to NEPA too, is beneficiary to them. They come up with, the prepaid meter. I also see it as being responsible because most people are paying like 20-something thousand, 30,000, per every month. But in a situation where they come up with the prepaid meter, is a way of being responsible to the public.
Okay, to assist them to manage the usage of electricity.
Exactly.
Okay, let's go back to ICSAN. ICSAN as an institution, and you are a fellow of the institute. Does ICSAN practice corporate social responsibility? And by way of extension, can we say ICSAN is ethical compliance? Take the two together.
Okay, that's a good one. I would say that to the best of my own knowledge, okay, I would say ICSAN is practicing good corporate practice. It has a good corporate social responsibility. Very quickly, the public lecture is one of the CSR project or arm of the institute, where the institute also engage with the public, okay, where several guests, discussants has been invited, informing, educating, enlightening, the public. And these are events that come with no cost, for the public. Then perhaps maybe internally too, part of the CSR initiative is to be towards the graduate member, the internship program, trying as much as possible to bring the graduate member, to the work environment, to the corporate environment, especially for those that doesn't have that at the moment. So I see that as part of the CSR drive for the institute. And in a general note, or generally now, I will say that the institute is trying its own best to ensure that ethical values are practiced, because in all of the events and the program of the institute, there has always been a communique, that comes up with it, which are usually published and sent to different government institutions. So ICSAN is contributing its own little quota to societal development.
Okay, what's your advice to organizations, both private and public, on how to entrench sound ethical culture in the organization?
Okay, that's more or less like me trying as much as possible to use the principles or business in the community.
Okay.
Business in the community is a voluntary organization, okay, that is founded in the UK and is based in the UK.
Okay.
I will try as much as possible to paraphrase their 5 principles. First of all, it talks about company trying as much as possible to treat employee equally and with respect. Okay, so in the UK, there's a practice at the moment where employers are not expected to send emails, okay, to their employees outside of their work hours. So if an employee is supposed to, be closed, work for the day at 5 o'clock, employer is not expected to send a mail after that 5 o'clock.
Okay,
So,
treat employees
yes,
equally. We have less than 30 seconds to wrap
with
up.
respect. Of course, the second part, second part has to do more with ensuring that they practice good ethical values.
Okay.
Okay, practicing ethical values. Then, of course, it talks about ensuring that they sustain the environment for the next generation or the future generation. Then, of course, the other part has to be with the company trying as much as possible to be a good corporate neighbor, to the community in which they are operating. So I believe that's about 4. The final part, of course, has to do with respecting the society and the values that that is carries or that is being known for.
That's it. Thank you very much, Mr. Olufemi Adabale, our distinguished fellow of ICSAN. Public and private institutions have been advised, take those 5 and your organizations will be good for it. We wrap it up from here, and we want to thank you very much for coming on the show and for sharing your thoughts on ethics in business.
Thanks for
and for our viewers, we want to thank you for being with us on this particular episode. We invite you to join us again next week, same station, same time. I remain Tunde Odeyemi. Keep spreading the gospel of corporate governance. Bye for now.
Do you have continuity or association plan for your business?
Has anyone shared the concept of sustainability with you?
What about the need to protect the rights of minority shareholders?
What are those ingredients germane to having effective meetings?
For these and many more, tune into Corporate Governance Platform every Thursday on MITV, your darling station, on DSTV 255 and UHF 43 at 4:30 p.m.
Corporate Governance Platform is your best medium for informative and educative strategies for the practice of the corporate governance profession.
Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, the hub of governance professionals.